Thank you all for gathering here today. Here lies Johnny. He enjoyed Taco Tuesday, baseball games, and scrolling. 9 years of his life, just swiping. He never left a 50-mile radius of his hometown, never saw Paris. The book he worked on for 37 years is 5 pages long, and no more will ever be added. He lived 62 years, but he really died at 25, the day he stopped trying, and just never told anyone. Mediocre is a strange word. Technically, it just means average. Right in the middle. Not good, not bad. Normal. On its own, that shouldn't feel like anything. But ask anyone if they want to live a mediocre life, and the answer is always the same. No. Probably hell no. There's nothing wrong with being average, by the way. Most people in history have been. We need average people. The world runs on them. But average changes depending on where and when you're standing. The median person on this planet still doesn't have air conditioning. Billions don't have clean water. Every 3.5 seconds, someone dies of hunger. So whenever this video talks about mediocrity, it means the modern, comfortable, first world version, the one most of us are actually afraid of. So why does that specific fear feel so heavy? Start with biology. For most of human history, survival depended on being useful to others. On status. Low status meant fewer resources, fewer allies, less chance of making it. That fear got written into you, generation after generation. Even today, the rewards are wildly unequal. The middle gets just enough to get by, and the top gets almost everything. So some part of you is always quietly trying to climb out of the middle. Then the internet showed up and poured gasoline on it. The algorithm doesn't want your attention for a second. It wants it forever. And the fastest way to hold it is comparison. So it shows you the top 0.01%. People your age with more money, better bodies, fuller lives, mostly real, sometimes fake. And your brain, built for a world of maybe 30 people, can't tell the difference. It just knows it's losing. The gap between where you are and where you could be stops closing no matter how far you go, because the bar keeps moving. That's not really about social media. That's just what an infinite mirror does to a finite person. But here's the part underneath all of that. You're not actually afraid of being ordinary. You're afraid of dying without ever having tried, of realizing, right at the end, that your whole life amounted to nothing you actually chose. Mediocrity isn't the absence of achievement. It's the presence of an opportunity you had and quietly let pass. And the world doesn't exactly help. As a kid, you're told to dream big. By your 20s, trying starts to look cringe. Wanting something out loud gets you looked at sideways. So most people just stop asking. Not because they weren't allowed to want something, but because nobody around them made it feel safe to keep wanting it. And the world hands you 1,000 ways to never notice the years passing. A screen in every pocket, on every wall, always one tap from numbness. Most people spend decades comparing, scrolling, consuming, and then wonder, all at once, how a decade disappeared. So what do you actually do with this? First, let the idea of mediocre fall apart a little. It's a word humans invented, measured against categories that don't even hold still. You will be average at almost everything, always, no matter who you are. That's not a failure. That's just math. Second, understand what you're actually chasing isn't status, it's meaning. And meaning doesn't come with instructions. Nobody can hand you your purpose. Which sounds bleak, but it's actually the opening. If nothing is universally required of you, then you get to decide what your life is supposed to mean, on your own terms, and no one else's scoreboard applies. Third, find one direction worth the climb, even an imperfect one, and start moving. Not a perfect plan, just directionally correct. Progress towards something you actually care about is the whole point, even if you never reach the top of it. The people who study death and dying say the most common deathbed regret isn't failure. It's not having lived a life true to themselves. Not the mountain left unclimbed, the mountain never attempted. So here's the reframe. Hell isn't dying with something unfinished. Hell is dying having never really tried, living on autopilot, chasing a version of comfort you never actually wanted, and calling it a life. Heaven, or whatever you want to call it, is simpler than people make it sound. It's climbing 1% of your own mountain, and knowing it still beats standing at the summit of somebody else's. You don't need to become a different person by next year. You just need to stop mistaking comfort for meaning. Pick a direction. Start walking. That's it. That's the whole trick.